screaming and screeching. That's how most men describe emotional women. Arguably, this applies to some, but not all. Some, as they call themselves, are strong, independent women. They are, of course, still susceptible to emotional outbursts, but in a less hysterical state, unlike others. Because yes, some are really and truly screaming and screeching women, for lack of a better description. However, hardened women criminals are expected to not show any sort of emotion, especially that of a weepy female. So, when some of them exhibit an excessive play of emotions, with the waterworks and all, people tend to look, smirk, and murmur, "You deserve that." I mean, the audacity to scream and cry after hurting and or killing a living and breathing person without a justifiable cause? Well, they do deserve whatever punishment they're given. Still, there are those who wail, scream for their mom, and flat out pass out after being given their respective court sentences. Number 1. Kai Andrea Cook. Some of you may remember this case, as it became viral a few years back. In June 2017, Kai Andrea Cook, then teenager, went viral for an anguished reaction to a 20-year prison sentence for a South Daytona, Florida attempted carjacking resulting in a person being shot. At the time, Cook came really close to spending her 20s through her 30s in prison after Circuit Judge Matt Foxman sentenced her on June 27, 2017 to 20 years in prison. Prior to the trial, Cook and her mother had been assured by their defense attorney that she would not go to prison, which, to their utter shock and disappointment, was the exact opposite of what happened. Both mother and daughter reacted with wailing and obvious anguish after the sentence was read, which was then captured in a viral video. In the video, you'd see how young Cook looked. I can't help but think how young she was and how she could have chosen to live a different kind of life. Because of their emotions running high in the scared court, mother and child were carried out of the courtroom at the S. James Foxman Justice Center, albeit separately. The mother was ushered out of the courthouse, while the daughter was escorted to jail. However, note that after several months of her courtroom fiasco, the judge allowed Cook to withdraw her no contest plea. The judge hit the delete button, if that's a thing, on her 20-year prison sentence, giving her a legal do-over. Instead, Cook posted $50,000 bail and was released subject to several conditions, including no contact with co-defendants. That should have been a given. If you regret what you did, you wouldn't want to talk or even see the very person who was with you in those dark times that led you to face a judge as a defendant. After the emotional mess she exhibited in the courtroom, you'd expect Cook to abide by the rules so she wouldn't have to go through that again. But she didn't. She was specifically ordered no contact with co-defendants. However, investigators found that Cook spoke with her then-boyfriend Kendrick Bass on at least 2 separate phone calls. To this, Assistant State Attorney Ashley Terwilliger said, "By speaking with the co-defendant, Kyandria Cook has demonstrated that she's unwilling to abide by her minimal conditions of pretrial release." Well, it appears that Cook had a different perspective. Contrary to the previous year's emotional drama, Cook and her mom were notably stone-faced and dry-eyed in April 2018 when the former was sentenced to 11 years in prison in a pair of carjacking cases and, at the same time, was ordered to serve 20 years in probation, which will run concurrent with her prison term. So she'll be serving probation even while locked up. She deserved that after screwing her second chance at a better life. In a calm state, Cook said, "I apologize for my actions to the victim's family and victims. I'm a changed person. I did learn my lesson from all this." Well, we sure hope so. At least we can expect that there will be no more emotional outbursts from her for at least a couple more years. However, unlike then-teenager Kendra Cook, whose sobs shook her body uncontrollably that she had to be dragged out of the courtroom, this 31-year-old woman silently cries after being sentenced to prison. Number 2. Tatiana Fusari. In November 2021, Tatiana Fusari was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Mary Welsh, her daughter. The baby, 10-month-old Mary Welsh, was found dead in her crib on August 2, 2018, at a Couple Salon Township home center near Cedar Springs. The baby weighed 6 pounds 12 ounces at birth and was only 8 pounds when her lifeless body was found. Boiling rage. That's the only way I can explain how I feel about this. During her trial, Fusari testified that her husband repeatedly beat and sexually assaulted her and would not let her go into Mary's room that night. At the same time, Fusari testified that she was breastfeeding Mary daily and leaving pureed fruits and vegetables for her husband to feed Mary while she was at work, arguing that she cared for her child as much as she could. But did she? Despite her testimony, a Kent County jury found Fusari guilty on charges of first-degree murder and first-degree child abuse on October 2021. With that, Kent County Judge Paul J. Denenfield reportedly sentenced Fusari to 15 to 30 years on the child abuse charge. That sentence will run concurrently with the life sentence. In addition, Fusari was ordered to pay all fines and court costs. In light of the said sentences, a video of how Fusari and her husband Seth Welsh reacted after they were initially charged has been viewed more than 11 million times. Welsh could be seen with mouth agape as he learned that he faced life without parole, while Fusari cried. Judge Paul Denenfield, who oversaw Fusari's case, spoke briefly before sentencing her, saying, "This is a tragic case from where I'm sitting. I'm not sure that I'll ever understand what these parents were doing or thinking to, I guess I would have to say, literally watch their child starve to death. If you aren't shaken with rage at this point, why? From birth, the right of life is an essential right for all human beings. For young children who can't protect their right to live, their parents have to shoulder that responsibility until such time that they're able. Mary's parents should have done that for her. Somebody should have, and it's appalling that no one did. People who intentionally hurt defenseless children are despicable, and they deserve the highest punishment and prison sentence there is. Well, at least that has been the case for Mary's parents and these two women who beat a toddler to death. Number 3. Erica Mae Butts, Shanita Latrice Cunningham. Lesbian lovers wailed and collapsed after hearing that they will serve life for murdering a 3-year-old girl. In 2011, a Charleston courtroom witnessed a scene that looks almost like it was straight out of a book or movie when a lesbian couple collapsed, wailed uncontrollably, and hyperventilated after hearing that they would serve life for killing a 3-year-old girl. The audacity. Erica Mae Butts and Shanita Latrice Cunningham, both 25 at the time, had to be picked off the court floor by court officials and held in chairs as they were wheeled out of the courtroom. Butts' mother even had to be physically removed by 3 staff members after shouting at her daughter to get up and screaming, "I can't leave my baby like this. My baby's out." With an outburst like this, you'd be inclined to wonder what Butts' mother did when her baby was beating a literal child, a true baby who can't afford to protect herself from 2 grown-ass women. In November 2011, just as they deserve, Butts and Cunningham received a life sentence from a Charleston judge, 2 years to the day after 3-year-old Serenity Richardson died while in their care. Elizabeth Gordon, the assistant managing solicitor for Charleston County, detailed the events that led to Serenity's death. According to Gordon, Serenity's mother, Aisha Richardson, who lives in Detroit, entrusted Serenity's care to her best friend, Erica Mae Butts, who also happens to be Serenity's godmother. At the time, Butts and her lover Cunningham were responsible for Serenity's care for 2 weeks at their home in Summerville, South Carolina, where the abuse took place. The explanation they gave was that Serenity had a potty accident, Gordon said. Just how horrid was the abuse? They beat her repeatedly, both with a belt and with plastic coat hangers. You can see the outlines of the strikes on the child's body. There's not one area of this child's body that was unharmed, except for the soles of her feet, said Gordon. They are despicable, and their acts are revolting. To this, the lesbian couple defended, "We didn't know what we did would kill her." When Serenity became unresponsive on November 3, 2009, they put bleach under her nose and they put ice on her to try and revive her, Gordon said. Butts called her own mother, who called 911. However, when the medics arrived, the child had been dead for some time, Gordon said. Well, now we have our answer. At least Butts' mother had the decency to call for help, which was too late for Serenity, unfortunately. At the time, Serenity's mother, Aisha Richardson, told the judge, "All I ask is that justice be served for her today, that she finally can seriously rest in peace, and then maybe, just maybe, I can breathe a breath of fresh air." Thankfully, justice was served well, although it can't bring back Serenity's life. At least her killers won't get to enjoy their life, which they used to deprive her of hers.